I think I am back for part two. I am indeed and back for part two. All right. YouTube has let me have the ability to do part two. Last night, for some reason, it wouldn't let me do part two. Again, a celestial event, so I'm having a celestial background and saying, "We'll make it if you believe." And she's screaming, Claudio. Okay, that's enough of my cheesiness. Let's get back to it. Right, so my first video, if you just missed it, was on crypto. I am now moving on to Forex. So we are going to go to Forex. So I like to talk about three different pairs when I talk about Forex. One of them is well, basically there are two of the USD pairs: Euro USD, GBP USD, and then Euro GBP. Why not have the trifecta? If you know what two of them are doing, you should know what Euro GBP are doing. All right, I know it's bad for my health. I get it, but it's my channel. I can do what I want on my channel, and it is in my room, so I'll do what I want. First, taking a look at Euro GBP, right? So what I noticed about this and what happened the previous night is my weekly bias for Euro GBP was to be bearish, and that's because I wanted my weekly bias for the British pound was bullish, and my weekly bias for the euro to the US dollar was, it wasn't really bullish, but it was sideways. So I thought the euro to GBP, the GBP would have a little bit more strength pulling that euro GBP down. It actually surprised me on Monday. It went a little bit higher than I thought it would go to. Came up, made almost some equal highs. But then now it's making its way toward where I thought it would go. The thing is that the trade actually happened the night before, and I should have held my sell. I was in a sell in this, and I got about 30 pips out of it. But that was before, because I sold it right here, right? So what I did to this particular pair is I took, if you know how I trade, right, I look for those explosive moves, throw my fib down, and I wait for it to come back up to about that 75% or 70.5% level. Then I like to sell, and then I usually put my stop loss just above the high, and then hope it doesn't get above the stop loss. That's what happened here. So I ended up selling right around in here, and it fell, and then it was probably right around 5 o'clock in the morning, I want to say. 5 o'clock in the morning. It was still at a fairly good low. I was still at a good 20 to 30 pips, I want to say. And it was starting to go up, and so instead of risking anything going against my way, I went ahead and got out of the trade, even though the night before I had marked out what I thought it could possibly go, right? And where I thought it could possibly go was exactly there, because I looked at that last up move, right, before the down move, right? So those explosive moves are what you look for in price action, because those are going to be your big money fake out. So your people with a lot of money put in a lot of money, and they go, boom, we're going to buy to fake everybody else out to buy. So everybody buys at this point thinking it's at a support level, right? So look at this. Everybody thinks it's at a support level, so they buy. So everybody else buys along with them, and then all of a sudden your big money people sell, right? And then they hold onto those buys because they have deep enough pockets that they can do it, right? Like Bank of America or Chase Bank, they have the millions of dollars to go into the red, but they also have the millions of dollars to make it go back up into that zone to where they have first bought and forced everybody else to buy to fake people out. to where they can then release that buy and then sell and then make their money. So this is where the actual trade is right here. That was the trade of the week, was right there, and I missed it because I traded here and I got out down here and I didn't hold long enough. Or maybe it was somewhere around here. Yeah, it was somewhere around here. Because I got up at 5 in the morning. It was right here. Yeah, and that's exactly where it was. Because I saw that it wasn't making a low. It was starting to go higher, and I was afraid it was going to get higher than where I sold. So I got out. Instead of setting a buy, instead of setting a sell limit right where I thought it would sell, I just didn't get in the trade again. Instead, I could be still in this trade and probably hundreds of pips in. That being said, my bias still remains that Euro GBP will still continue to make its rounds lower. And the reason I think that is because you have a liquidity pool right over here. And what I mean by liquidity pool is, you have two equal lows. So when you have two equal lows, people think of this as your safe spot for a support zone. So whenever it gets close to this zone, right, people will buy. Now I have a feeling right here is probably where it did buy, right, was probably your last down move before it started making an up move. Or at least a significant one, a significant down move before the up move. So it would have been right around in here. Right, that flat red candle. Whenever you see a flat candle that has no wick, pay attention to those, right? Because as soon as it switches, especially at a 5-minute candle, if there is no wick on a 5-minute candle, you know that all of a sudden it just went, as soon as it switched over to that 5 minutes, boom, it's not called selling pressure, it's called repricing. It just all of a sudden repriced as fast as it could down. Now if I follow this to the left, as you can see, as soon as it dips into it, it's buying, and of course this is back on the 17th of December, but I bet if we get down to today, it probably dipped into that area. It did. Oh, it dipped right into it. Right into that area. So, right on top of that, that's why I said pay attention to those solid candles. Those solid candles are going to give you keys. Definitely gave you keys there. If I had paid attention to this yesterday, I would have seen that, and I would have definitely put a buy limit on that. A good 30 pips is all you need, and it probably did make a good 30 pips or more. It looks like at least 48 at the highest. But you set it for 30 right there, good 32 easily, and you'd have been on your way. So now what's happening is it's getting closer to that area. The thing is like I said, I still have my bias that it could turn around. Tomorrow could be a different day, and you could see an explosive move up. But then I think eventually it is going to get lower. So what do we do from here? Well, I do see a little bit of a liquidity pool here and here, but I don't think that's enough. What I do see is the same kind of move that happened the previous night, right? Or the night before. This right here, down to this low. Okay, it did pull back up into the 618, and that did hit this. Okay, so you did have a wick here, right? And it looks like it came down and touched that wick. I'm not really concerned about that though. I think, oops, I accidentally just turned in my 20 EMA that I never use. More concerned about this right here. my horizontal ray. This is what I'm looking at. So this is your, it goes down, boom, comes back up. And that's a pretty strong down to up move. This is what I would be looking for, especially because it's kind of, you know, crawling on the ground, I guess you could say. I mean, generally, you know, you have one good time to buy, right? It's not going to give you hours and hours worth of time to buy. I guess you could buy, right? But get ready to get out right here. But the bigger move is going to be probably from here down below that. So I will probably be setting a sell limit before I go to bed, you know, for this right here. And it may do what it did last time, come up here, float around, and then finally come back up and then sell. That's probably what I'm expecting it to do, because I'm not for sure what GBP USD is going to be doing or what Euro USD is going to be doing. If I had a good clue about what each of those are going to be doing, I might have a better idea. But if anything, I'm gonna, especially since tomorrow's not really gonna be that, you know, tomorrow's basically like the Friday of the day, because we're not open tomorrow. They're not open on Friday. We may not see a whole lot of action, but just in case we do, I would say this would be the look I would be looking for, as far as selling, or as far as any kind of movement. You could go long right now if you wanted to, but I would say just be prepared to exit here. The only thing I would say what the problem with going long is that it could still just continue drifting down. You never know in these kind of conditions, these kind of situations, especially with the liquidity pool being so close to it. As you can see, the 127 extension is just below the liquidity pool. So that is another thing that I would say is also of concern. Not a concern, but a good thing, right? So this fib that I just drew is probably the one that the big bankers are looking at and saying, okay, so if we get to around the 80%, that's going to be a discount from that original trade that we missed the last time if we didn't sell here. So we can get in again here at a discounted price and still make some good gains, especially if we make more than 20%, right? Right. So that's how they view this game. That's how the bankers view this game. So that's what I would be thinking, but then again, still be careful, because I wouldn't buy, just because I wouldn't know. I don't have a good sense that this is going to go up into this. But if you think it is, you know, make a stop loss. Make sure your stop loss is probably just below here. I don't think it's going to get any farther below that 127, right? And then see if it goes back up and then comes back down. But I don't think so. I think if anything, you know, it could still just ride the wave down, or it could go back up and then come back down. Let's check out Euro USD, GBP USD, and let's see if we can come up with a solution. Euro USD. All right, I am in the hour to it. If anybody watched what my thing last night, you know that my biases were wrong. I, for some reason, switched my biases last minute, and I thought we were going to be going south. Thought we'd be going south on the euro and GBP USD, and the main reasons was because I see these liquidity pools down here. Not thinking that the dollar is in, and I was thinking about the dollar is in hurt, meaning foreign currency is going to be definitely taking control, or at least in bear hands, or bull hands, I should say. So what does that mean for this foreign currency? Well, let's see. If we find a fairly near, especially within the last day, move, right? It dropped down to here, came up to here. So now if I would be looking at some kind of discounted price. Let me get rid of a lot of these lines because these were liquidity draws that I drew, and look what it did. It got above every single one of those liquidity draws, just like I thought it would. Oops, I have no idea what button I just pushed, but I just pushed something. Are we still live? I think we're still live. Okay. For some reason my computer just decided to turn off. Didn't mean for that to happen, but it looks like we're still live streaming, so I am still good. Alright, so looks like it is now falling, right? So to me that is a good sign, because what I want to see out of this is some kind of, and what I'm seeing is a last down move before the big up move, right? Is this candle right here, and I'm on the hour, right? So if I draw horizontal ray right across the top of the volume of that candle, jeez, come on, fat fingers, help me out here. We're looking right around the 68%, which is what I expect. Somewhere around there would be a good entry point. Let me move this over here so that's not taking up half the screen. Alright, let's go down to the 5 minute and see what that looks like. And let's see if we can find a better entry. So what that red candle was boom, this big down move. All right, stayed down here for a little bit and then boom, bounced up. So kind of a couple different entries, right? It could get all the way down here, just because that's that last down move before that good push up. But then again, you have a second one. You have a second wave of it, of this, but it doesn't really rebalance. It kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. You have a wick here, you have the other wick that comes down, so a little bit of balancing there. Comes up, creates almost equal highs, comes down, breaks the, creates another equal high, then breaks the equal highs, and then it was off to the races. Right, so what I'm looking for, if we have this right here, right, look at that, the 162% is exactly right above the previous high. So that's not going to show. I think it's going to probably show up down here. Yep, where I drew that line. So what does that mean? That means we got to find a good entry point, and probably that would be where I would aim for. Whether that means you hold over the weekend or not, that is up to you. Me, I probably will. But the question is that actually where it's going to be coming from or not? Because it could be coming from quite, I mean, this thing is full of just ups and downs here. Alright, so, but you do have this right here, right? I see this as kind of a liquidity pool, because it does look like this area, people would think of this as a support zone, right? It comes down, hits it. So, and if, well, it doesn't make no sense if, well, if the GBP is falling faster and harder than the euro, then that would make more sense for the euro to actually go up and hit this. If we're thinking that the euro is going to fall, right, then a GBP has to fall even farther and even faster for this Euro GBP to make sense. Okay, so let's see if we can make sense out of this one first. Right. All right. So you have this down move between this up move. So to be honest, there's quite a few different outcomes that could come from this. And to be honest, I may sleep on this one tonight and put the most extreme case as so here right now, right, if we want to draw from this to this, right, and consider this your new wave up to this new high, it comes down, it's sitting right on top at the 68%, and there's 20 minutes until the New York Open, right? So if that tells you anything. But the thing is that it really didn't rebalance. I mean, I guess it kind of did, considering this came up here, right? It floated down here, kind of left an area, came up here. I guess you would consider this rebalancing, considering kind of set up on top of here. So then, all right, the draw is to liquidity. Here's liquidity point 1, right? And even this at the 127 point. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let me draw this over here. At the 127 extension here, it goes just above that high, right? So that would be liquidity point 1. So it's going to try to get above that high. Always tries to break the previous day's highs, or a swing high, or a session high, or some kind of high. Always looking to break one, or a low, right? But for it to come all the way back up down here just to break this high seems a little absurd. So what it could be doing is it could be using, considering it did kind of balance, right? Balanced here, rebalanced in between this kind of big move, it balanced itself out, made this move, kind of balanced itself out again, seems to rebalancing again. And let me get my phone really quick. Sorry about that. The reason I wanted to get my phone is because I do think this could be, you know, if I throw in a small lot size, it may make sense. And it's only about a 10 pip stop loss if you do go ahead and put it in now. See if you can get about, what, maybe 15 pips out of it. 20 pips, something like that. It may make sense, who knows? It may not. But considering the way the confluence is working here, and also at the double extension or triple extension, is about at the exact same place as the previous 127 extension. So we could be aiming for much higher territory right now. So another thing that could be developing, if we look at a down up move, would be if we were to put this here, right? And you look for that discounted price, right, that the banks love to get. Your last down up move, as you can see, this candle here is a very, both of these candles actually, very flat. You have some very flat candles here. A little bit of a spike up, and the spike up comes to probably about that 70%. mean, I'm no wizard. I'm, you know, been trading Forex for about a year. The question is what does this, right? And then this comes back down, lands on top of this, and then trades up higher. So that seems like the rebalancing. But then again, once the London session opens, it could just pull back and then go up. Or it could be wanting to start trading now. It could be wanting to start moving itself up now. Because it already has rebalanced, right? And it's sitting on top of that 618 and actually spiked down to that 0.75. And I use the bodies whenever I do my Fibonacci, is because wicks can vary depending on broker. So I always use the bodies instead of the wicks, especially when looking for entries. Right, so the only thing that worries me about this is this right here. Right, so I do see this. Right, so this big up move, right? And then it kind of holds its own for a second before it comes slamming back down. Right, so right here, you kind of have a fair value gap. All right, so what it could do is it could just reach for this fair value gap and then come back down. And if that's the case, where's it going to stop? Well, number one stop would be right here. Right, so that's almost at the 70.5%. Actually, this right here is exactly at the 70.5%. So this still has a chance to make its way down further to hit this this last up down move. Like I always talk about, you know, those extreme up down moves, that's what you look for. Hit this, boom, goes down, boom, goes back up. So that's what you're looking for, because here's that fake out. You're selling, selling, selling. All of a sudden you stop, or you're buying, buying, buying. Bomb, you stop, you sell. You fake people out on the sell, boom, here you go. Now they're still holding the sell. Well, there was a candle that did come down into this block. So it did kind of rebalance almost. So if anything, what we could be looking at is if we wanted to say that as the rebalancing, because if you look at that, it kind of went sideways and it went down really quick and then took off again, right? And then looks like it's at the right now. It would be at the perfect spot to trade. Right as the the Euro session's about to begin. We could also turn the tables, right? And we could say, well, you know what, this might sell. I don't think it is. If it were going to, again, use the bodies. The last big down movement is right here. It could, because guess what? Whenever it pulls back up, look exactly where that point of interest is that I talked about. Right at the 618 level. So it's right at that discount level, right underneath it. So again, in this zone, in between the 618 and the 79% golden zone, that's where they're going to want to look for, you know, in case they miss this original down move, right? And it is going to sell. If you think it's going to sell, if you're one of those people at home going, no, it's not going to buy, it's going to sell. Well, then this is what you would be looking for. You would look for it to pull up here, hit this, and then there's your sell. So I'm looking at it both ways here, trying to determine which one I think it's going to do. I still think the draw on liquidity is much higher, but I gotta look at this piece of work right here. You always gotta look to the left of the chart and try to determine what kind of action happened in here to see if it is going to do what you want it to do. So your last action up, your last body, your last volume up is this right here before it goes down. Where is this in relation to where we are right now? About the exact same spot. Alright, so I'm going to draw a line just above where we are. See, this is another thing, is that we have equal highs coming right through here too, almost equal highs. So this is another reason that tells me there's liquidity right above this. Right, this looks like a very safe support zone. And in smart money, anything that you would think is safe is not safe, right? So instead, I'm going to draw a line right there. I'm going to see where that is in relation to where we're at. Okay, so it is. See, that doesn't make any sense in, with any of this price that's happening right now. It's already gotten above most of these levels. It didn't beat out this, but I think it gave it a reason to try to continue to go higher, right? And then because you still have this monster, right, from last week, or the other day anyway, I guess I should say, that we have to get hold of, because here is last week's high. So we're still quite a bit of ways away from last week's high. The thing is that we haven't broken this week's low. So we're somewhere right in the middle. So it's kind of a tough determination to make. And again, I don't want to see, again, this always trips me up because there is this liquidity zone. It could all of a sudden just drop, the floor drop out of this and it get below this zone. Or it could be reaching for liquidity zone 1, which is right above here. So everybody thinks is a support and sell down to here, right? It could raise above that. Right, then all of a sudden it could raise above that, and then try to continue on, getting above this, pulling back, getting above this, pulling back, getting above this, pulling back, just like it has kind of been doing, right? Going up, pulling back, going up, pulling back. Here we're pulling back, probably hit a zone, go up, pull back. I'm seeing more bullishness. I'm not seeing any kind of defined bearish order block that says, okay, yes, this is going to sell like I usually find. Like I've been finding in crypto so much lately. I'm not finding that in these, especially that have not already been mitigated. If they've already been mitigated and people have already released those positions, why would it not go higher, right? So if you go up here, right, and you fake this, if you have the money to push this up, right, and then you sell and then you hold it, right, and it comes back up into this position, guess what? You can release that sell, or release that buy, and then sell, right, and then wait till it gets to the perfect time and then buy. Because it's already broken. Well, this broke the high, right? So now, since this did break the intermediate highs, right? Usually what you do look for is a good 25 to or a good retracement spot. So jeez, come on, fat fingers, help me out here today. So probably what I should be looking at is this. I should be looking at the whole picture and not just what we're doing, because even when we're looking at that, this zone right here, right, exactly about the 80%. If it falls below that, it hits this bit bullish order block and then moves on. And even then, I know we still have, yeah, you're still a ways away from getting to all of that liquidity pool that's sitting down below here. Eventually it's going to get to that liquidity pool. Is it going to be this week? I don't know. So Euro USD has me confused, I'm not going to lie. My bias says it's going to buy, just because it pulled up, right? Generally during the Asian session, it usually has a tendency to pull toward where it wants to go, right? And so it pulled up toward here, right? It wants to get above this high. I think it's going to pull back a little bit more, and then probably eventually it will get its high. I'm going to break the high and then break even more highs. But all right, on to GU. Also the same kind of mystery. This one just decided to float up. I don't know why I'm on the 1 minute. Let's go to the 1 hour and let's check it out on the hour for right now. Jeez, again, I swear I deleted all of these just earlier. Most of those were, liquidity drawings saying, hey, it's probably going to pull up and get past this liquidity. And here's the thing with GU, right? I wait for it to break highs. It did break the high, so now I'm looking for it to break another high, basically. If I look at this price action here, what would I be looking for to be worried about would be the last up move. What we have is this. Now the thing with this is that we don't have anything that goes straight through it. Instead, what we have is price action that went down, hit it, went above it. It did go down below it, and then it came back up, touched it, and then kind of meandered on. This week, now we have finally came back up to it, and we have touched that same area. But there's so much price action in that way now, though, that it's looking like another, it's just going to keep continuing to rise. But for me to want to get into this, I'm going to want to see a pullback. I'm not just going to jump in right now and buy. I'm going to want to see some kind of pullback. But where do I want to see a pullback from? And that's the thing, is that this thing has made such a weird formation. It didn't even make a really good pullback from here. There was no good pullback at all from where it made this low. The best move was probably from here to here, right? Because if you actually look at this to this, it comes down to 62% level. And then so that was your trade, and that was 2 days ago, so or let's say 2 days ago, or last night, I guess you could say. So instead, I was thinking it was probably going to sell the way it was acting. it was probably gonna, it pulled back up into this area, and I thought that was the sell there. And there's where I was wrong, because I thought it was going to hit this and then it can continue to sell, because I think I had drawn, I forgot how I drew my fibs. I drew it in a completely different way, but didn't like it. But now, well, what are we looking at here? We got the high. Well, let's draw this here. It could come back to this same area, right, where this down candle here is, right, and that's where this kind of stopped it. So it came up, the down move, boom, the big up explosive move. So that's why it came back here, mitigated that, moved on. But here's the thing with this one, is that your mitigation for this would start right here, right? Because you have 3 down candles in a row. I'm in the hour though, so let's get in the 5 minute and let's see if we can't find something a little bit spicier, a little bit more on the dot, because these are not all down candles, even though the hour shows it's all down candles. It's definitely not. And what I have over here is I have a fair value gap and an order block. So there's a fair value gap right here, and there's an order block just below it, so that whenever it does get time to where it does come down into it, it's probably going to fill that fair value gap, hit the order block, and then go the opposite direction. So so far it is not looking like it's even getting close to doing that, and it looks like it does want to continue going up. I don't see a reason why it would want to stop and then go the other way. I don't see any liquidity pools other than this right here, this kind of area looking like it could be a safe support zone, and I'll kind of draw that out for you. That could be like a safe support zone, being like, okay, once it gets back here, you can buy and then set your stop loss right here, because that's what that's where this stopped. Instead, it could go through, right, hit this order block, but then that would require this to have a bearish bias tomorrow or today. So it could be completely sideways throughout the entire night, and so I am not, again, these two, with Euro USD and GBP USD, I am kind of at a loss right now as to trying to figure out exactly what they're going to do. And now if we draw this from the most recent explosive move, right, that happened around 7 o'clock this morning, I actually did sell, right, last night, and I sold probably right around in this area. So if I'd actually woke up early this morning, I would have made a little bit of money, not a whole lot, because it would have been it would have been about 30 pips or so. But instead, I slept through my alarm, didn't wake up, and completely my fault. But I did sell like right in here, and I could have sold before the big takeoff, or at least gotten out of the trade before the takeoff and made some money. But I didn't even know the takeoff was going to happen. I just don't see any good sign that of this even happening. It's just crazy. It just kind of came down into this little order block here. I mean, it dropped below, this little area here, right? That would be kind of a fake support resistance zone, so people could start buying right here, then all of a sudden, even then, the people that it just doesn't make sense, because it didn't go far enough to take people out. or people had their sell stop set there and it did take those people out. That's about the only thing I can think of, but I don't see this as a good area for that to be doing that. So for what this move did, just doesn't make sense to me. Any other smart money people out there have a good idea as to why it did what it did? Let me know. I would love to hear your input. What I can look at is this whole schematic, right, of this up down motion moving down into here, as you could consider this one big motion, right, going from here down to here. So if that's the case, you want to look at this, which is right around that 70.5, especially if you have a bullish bias. You could see this as liquidity pool kind of area. You know, thinking of this as a fake support zone, just because there is, almost a double bounce, not really, but, falls back to here. People think you could buy, and then it falls just a little bit below that, and then hits that area instead, and then decides to move on. So, but your real last down move before your up move is right here. So kind of like how the euro was. Because this was a bullish order block too. It just happened to get a little bit below it. This could also be a bullish order block, right? But we're so far above it, I'm just wondering if it's going to come back, or if it's going to continue drifting on, just like the Euro GBP, So these two, a little bit confused about. We could try to decipher this in a little bit different way, right? Could use this as our low point, right? But even then, there is so much price action in the buying area. Usually doesn't happen. And even then, I'm seeing like even this right here, where you have this little bit that sells right here and then goes up and then comes back down and mitigates it, so it touches it. So if you draw that line right there, boom, goes across, it comes back, touches it, and then continues to go up. I'm already seeing things like that inside of here. So I am not for sure where this is going to lead us to, especially here, consolidation area. We are up and outside of that consolidation area. It could be wanting to sit on top of this consolidation area. It could be that, this is already rebalanced as much as it can, right? And then so here is here is your down up move. It comes back down. It looks like it's already mitigated again, right? So then what do? You place it here, and then so it kind of comes down and even then, all right, now you've already had your buying spot. Your buying spot was right here, right? So if you're going to go long, looks like you've already hit your buying spot. So this is what is confusing me about GBP. Usually I can kind of decipher these things, but the way it's kind of done, I can't really tell. And if we want to look at it on the, if we want to look at it on the flip side, if we think it's going to sell but I don't think it is, because again, it usually doesn't just come up to here to a good selling point and then stay there, right, to sell. Usually it'll drop really quick to a good buy point and then come back up. Right? It usually gives you one or two good shots. It doesn't give you a whole, you know, from 8 o'clock until 11 o'clock to be a good seller, right? Unless it's gonna pull back up really quick and then sell, which is possible, which is why you could be a good buyer, right, and then just have a good, I don't know, 20-30 pip stop loss, right? But if it were going to sell, let's use the entire wave here. Yeah, I mean, you're already in a good selling position, so. And that's the thing, is I don't think there were any, I mean, these are just spikes. I don't think there's any order blocks or anything like that in this area. I think this is just good price movement in here, or just straight up and down price movement. Let me look at the 1 minute and see if I can find anything. And yes, I do dig into the 1 minute, but even then, you don't have, I mean, it starts down here and then goes up, so this would still be considered basically one candle. I don't know, it does have a little bit of a wick here, comes back down, and you do kind of have a solid 1 minute candle that starts right there. And it's just above that, I want to say. So it's came up into that and then started selling. So you never know, this could be a sell. Because it did come into that. But then again, something just tells me that it can't be, because of all of the liquidity draw. It's what's going to want to break this high. I don't see a reason for it to want to try to break these lows, right? And I mean, it could try to want to break these. I mean, there's a good equal low point if we do have it set up the way it is right now, and you are in a sell. You'd want to aim for this, right? This 162% extension. Reason being you'd want to aim for that is because it's just below that. I would say is a good liquidity point, because you do have here, right? So this looks like a good support zone, support. Like you kind of have like these support areas. So it looks like it would come down to at least here, maybe even break through it a little bit. So I don't know. This is gonna be one of those things where I'm gonna probably wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, figure out which direction it went, and then find a good entry and then trade based on that. So I'm just trying to look at things from all different angles, from Euro USD, GBP USD, whether you think the bias is bullish, whether you think the bias is bearish, and then let you decide. All right. Anyways, that I really don't. Those are the ones I trade. If I look at any other area, let's take a look at gold. I do want to take a look at gold. Let's take a look at gold. Why not? So let's see what happened with gold today. So I usually draw these out. All right. Let me get rid of some of these things on it. Jeez, I know I've deleted this stuff before too. This is ridiculous. So this is before I made a prediction to where I thought there was a liquidity pool that was just sitting right above here, and I thought I was going to come up into this liquidity pool right, and then pull back down, but instead it just decided to pull back down anyway. And then I thought I was going to stop in this green box and then go up. Instead it got below the green box and then went up. I was close, but and that was back on early December whenever I made that comment or thought. And so now what I've been doing, especially with gold, is I've been drawing out a straight line for every 12 hours that starts at midnight, right, and goes into noon the next day, or sorry, 11 p.m. my time, goes into 11 the next day, and I try to study the bias about what happens, right, to see, especially with gold, because it gets a little bit different than Forex. You can't really rely on, just currency as telling you what it's going to do. You really have to look at liquidity pools and things like that. So here, what do I think gold is going to do? Let's take a look at it and let's see where we're at. I'm on a 15-minute chart here. The red lines here designated are previous daily highs, previous daily lows. Price likes to hang around them, meet them, break them. And that's why I have those drawn out there. It looks like what happened overnight, it could have went either way for last night. Definitely had the drop down to a previous daily low, right? Almost the day before. And then did a good push up. And it looks like we have almost equal highs here, almost equal, and it just looks like the highs are almost just stacked up one on top of each other. So you go high, high, and then you gotta go high, you get a little bit of a high and a little bit of a high. So I have a feeling the bias is going to be bullish. You do have a bit of a liquidity pool here, so it could pull back down, right? I think it could pull back down, and then you see where these reddish candles are. Well, actually where this 12-hour, where I drew this out from where price started the night before at 11 o'clock, it looks like it could almost hit that spot exactly, because that is where you do have a bearish order block, right, going down before it takes off up, right? Then you kind of have another bearish order block before it takes off up, except for that part has already been mitigated, so it's already came down. So anybody that's holding a sell in this area hasn't been mitigated yet. Only way to mitigate that would be to fall back down into this area here. So I think gold probably going to fall back down to this area here somewhere and then buy. That's what it looks like to me. If I were to draw a fib, I would expect that to be somewhere in the 68% or 62% to 70% area, just below it. So actually this let me see here. Yep, so comes down, pulls back up. Right here is what you're going to want to look for, right in that area. So I'm thinking it will. I'm thinking it's going to come right here. It's going to pull just below this low, right? And see where this flat top candle is. Probably hit that exact flat top candle. That should be probably a dead giveaway. So I'm going to expect gold to come down, hit the flat top candle somewhere around 1865, right? Stop loss, give it a good $10, 1855. Give it a little bit less than that. And then hope, let me see here. Looks like you're 127, you're going to get just above. Okay, encoding error occurred, whatever. Looks like I'm still streaming, so looks like you're probably just above the 127, right? And evidently no, doesn't want to do them anymore.